This is a Retribution Paladin guide for beginners in raiding and Mythic Plus in Season 3 of Dragonflight for patch 10.2 and 10.2.5 and beyond. There's going to be absolutely no information overload in this video because it is indeed for beginners, so let's start off with the stat priority. As a Ret Melee Paladin, you are going to want to increase your eye level and strength over absolutely everything else. However, if you do want to delve more into the secondary stats, this is the priority I would advise to take, with haste, then versatility, then crit, and the last and lowest priority would be mastery. I do always advise, if you are going more in depth like this, that you do sim your character. And if you're not sure how to do that, then do join my Discord because I can help you and have a written guide in there. But if you are a total beginner, like I said, the general rule of thumb is going to be eye level, increasing that item level on your gear, and therefore getting more strength overall. If you do this, then you're pretty much good to go. Looking at talents then, this one on the left is going to be for raiding and single target. On the right, this is the build for Mythic Plus and more AoE. There are import strings below for both of these. I'm not going to go through every single talent so that it's not an overload of information. However, once you're more comfortable with the spec, I do advise that you look through all of the talents, see how they work together, and do the same with your spellbook. But let's start looking at the really important spells ourselves now. Those, of course, being our cooldowns. Starting top left then, we have the Blessing of Sacrifice. We can cast this on an ally to reduce the damage they take. However, we are going to sacrifice our own health and take the damage instead. It can't kill you and will only reduce you to low health. Then we have Divine Shield, granting you personal immunity to pretty much everything. Really, really good defensive. A slightly lower version of that is going to be the one at the bottom, Divine Protection, which simply reduces your damage taken by 30%. We also have Lay on Hands, healing a friendly target for 100% of our health as an equivalent. This is a really good cooldown that we can use to heal someone, even if we are Ret and we're not a Holy Paladin. A few utilities then, what we have at our disposal. Divine Speed. This is a really good movement speed increase that has 2 charges and we can use it in combat. Summoning a steed and we can run off at 100% movement speed for a few seconds. We also have our auras, similar to how warriors have their stances, druids have their shape-shifting. We as paladins have auras. I'm not going to go through all of these here. When we go through the rotations, I'll show you all of them. But these are different buffs that we can afford to the party to increase certain things in combat. We have Rebuke, which is our interrupt, otherwise known as our kick. This is what we have as a Ret Paladin in melee. We also have Intercession, which is a battle res, meaning that on a long cooldown, we can actually resurrect somebody in combat. And this is really, really useful. Technically a huge cooldown, but I've put it in utilities as well. And then we've got Blessing of Freedom, granting movement impairing immunity to any ally. There are a hell of a lot of different utilities and cooldowns that we have as a Paladin. These are just some of the really cool ones I want to show you. Now that we've gotten all of that out of the way, let's actually get in game and see how it all comes together. First of all, let's look at a few things on my UI that I'd like to highlight to you. One is, as I said, the auras. And these are down here near my shoulder here. And the first one we have is Crusader Aura. This is going to increase the mounted speed for everyone in your party. And if you're trying to get somewhere, this is going to obviously increase that speed at which you do, which is really, really useful. The next one is we have Devotion Aura. Party and raid members within 40 yards are bolstered by their devotion, reducing damage taken by 3%, so a more defensive one. My favourite, and the one that I generally say to use, is Retribution Aura. When any party or raid member takes more than 30% of their health and damage in a single hit, each member gains 5% increased damage and healing, decaying over 30 seconds, and it can't occur within 30 seconds of the aura being applied. This is really, really useful and can be magnificent in so many different situations when this occurs, and is the one I generally recommend to use. The other thing I would like to show you is this weak aura here in the middle of my screen. This is by Luxphos, and again, same as talents, there's an import string down below in the description. This is going to highlight all of my cooldowns and resources as a paladin in one easy to see chunk of the screen. Now, if you're not sure how to import weak auras or anything like that, please do join my Discord where I have complete written guides for things like this. I will also help you with any add-on queries you have, class queries, honestly, anything at all. We have a class discussion channel where a lot of people are discussing classes, a lot of beginners and things like that. If you also would like to go another step further, you can by becoming a member with the join button below or joining my Patreon. At that point, you're actually going to gain access to a secret channel in the Discord where I can actually help you import my entire UI and get that set up if you like what you see. And also, I'm happy to review your logs and things like that that can all be done through there. But anyway, now that we've covered all of that, let's actually start looking at our rotation and the abilities we're going to be using. Starting off, we're going to look at our mastery, which is something I just think is always important to know. And our mastery as a paladin is that we increase holy damage done. Really, really simple. And another thing is going to be our set bonus. I'm going to get onto that in a second. I currently am in the single target build, and we're going to start off with that single target, then move on to AoE. And these are the abilities in rotation that I'm going to be showing you here. So the first ability we have is Avenging Wrath. It's going to allow our Hammer of Wrath ability to be used on any target. And it's going to increase our damage, healing, and critical strike by 20% for 23 seconds. Hammer of Wrath is this spell over here. It's actually at the end of our priority, so it's the lowest priority. You can see it hurls a divine hammer that strikes an enemy, and it's only usable with enemies that have less than 20% health or during Avenging Wrath. Avenging Wrath is the one I just spoke about, and it's on 1 minute cooldown. You can see when we use Avenging Wrath here, we get these beautiful wings and we can suddenly use our Hammer of Wrath, which sends out this beautiful hammer. One thing you're going to notice is that Hammer of Wrath generates 1 holy power. So what is holy power? You can see here these 2 yellow bars on my weak aura. Well, this is our holy power. And we can have up to 5 holy power. Some of our spells are going to generate holy power, and some of them are going to be spending holy power. We never really want to be capping on holy power, but we do want to be going up to generally 5 to be using certain abilities as our holy power spenders, because obviously they're going to be doing more damage at the higher holy power usage. So just to recap then, we're going to use our Avenging Wrath first, which is going to increase our damage, healing, and crit, and also allow us to use Hammer of Wrath. What we're then going to do is Execution Sentence. And you're going to see a hammer is going to slowly fall from the sky. There it is, falling onto our target, and after 12 seconds they're going to suffer 30% of damage taken from your abilities as holy damage during that time. So what we're then going to do is we're going to use our Avenging Wrath to get up our damage, healing, and crit, then use our Execution Sentence, and we've got that window then of 12 seconds as it's coming down to do as much damage as we can. We're going to then use our Final Verdict, okay? And that's going to unleash a powerful weapon strike that deals damage to an enemy target, and it has a 15% chance to reset the cooldown of Hammer of Wrath and make it usable on any target regardless of their health. Again, Hammer of Wrath is this one at the end. And this is going to use a minimum of 4 holy power. We are going to want to spend this when we have 5 holy power, so the maximum here. So we can use that here, and you can see we've then got 1 left. So once we get to 5, that's when we want to use this spell. The next one on our priority list is going to be Wake of Ashes. Lash out at your enemies, dealing damage. It's on a 30% cooldown, 30-second cooldown, and it's going to do damage to all enemies in 14 yards in front of you, reducing their movement speed and burning them as a damage over time. Demon and undead enemies are also stunned. This is going to generate 3 holy power. So we want to make sure that we're using this only when we have 2 or less holy power. The next one is Blade of Justice. Now, one thing I will say, even though this is at the 5th point on our priority list, we actually want to use this as an opener because it's going to do something pretty snazzy. You can see when we use Blade of Justice that there is a expurgation debuff on our target, and we're going to want to keep that up at all times. So when you go into combat, use the Blade of Justice to get this buff up, and after that we're just going to want to keep it up, but it does appear here in our priority list, if that makes sense. So basically use it at this point to make sure we're keeping up expurgation on our target. And at this point I'd like to show you our set bonus this season. This is the set bonus here. The 2 set is going to make expurgation last an additional 3 seconds and deal 30% increased damage. And then using Judgment or Divine Toll on a target with that buff is then going to give it another debuff, doing a ton of damage, and also to enemies in the area. Those 2 are Divine Toll and Judgment. Judgment, again, is going to be a holy power generator, generating 2 holy power, And Divine Toll instantly casts Judgment on up to 5 targets within 30 yards. After casting Divine Toll, you instantly cast Judgment every 5 seconds, and that will last for 15 seconds. And the Judgments are going to deal 100% increased damage from that. The 4 set then is going to make that debuff that has been put on from Expurgation, Wrathful Sanction, grant you another debuff called Echoes of Wrath, buff. And that buff is going to make your next Final Verdict, this third one here, deal damage a second time. So basically the set bonus is going to revolve around using Judgment and using your Blade of Justice. And that's why we're going to want to keep that Expurgation buff up on the target at all times. Just to recap that then, we're going to be using Blade of Justice to keep up the Expurgation debuff on our target. The 2 set bonus is actually going to make that do a lot more damage, and also give them a debuff called Wrathful Sanction, making them and other enemies near them take even more damage. So it's a pretty passive ability. The 4 set then is going to make that debuff give us another buff, causing our next Final Verdict to do damage again. So this is already woven into the rotation, so even though this may sound a tad complex with a lot of debuffs and buffs, you don't really need to worry about it if you're following the rotation I'm showing you. So let's just recap the rotation again so far so we're not getting confused. We're going to go in and use our Blade of Justice to keep that Expurgation buff up, and then we're going to be using Avenging Wrath, then we're going to use our Execution Sentence, and then Final Verdict once we're at 5 Holy Power. After that, we're going to use our Wake of Ashes. You can see I'm at 2 Holy Power. Perfect. That's going to bring us up to 5, because we don't want to use our Wake of Ashes if we have more than 2 Holy Power, remember, because it's going to generate 3. The next thing on our priority list is to use Blade of Justice if Expurgation is not applied. Remember that if we're getting up to 5 Holy Power, we're going to go back and use our Final Verdict, because Blade of Justice is also going to generate 1 Holy Power, remember. After that, we're going to use our Divine Toll to get out a load of Judgments. After that, Judgment is the next ability on the priority list, and this is also going to generate 2 Holy Power. Then, last on the list is going to be Hammer of Wrath. Remember, when we're using our Avenging Wrath, we can actually use Hammer of Wrath, etc., no matter of the health percentage. To recap on what Hammer of Wrath does, it hurls a hammer that can only be used generally when the enemy has less than 20% health. And again, this is going to generate 1 Holy Power. And that is pretty much the rotation for single target. So we're going to keep Expurgation up. We're going to use our Avenging Wrath on cooldown and our Execution Sentence, using Final Verdict as our main Holy Power spender. We're going to use Wake of Ashes to get a dot out and just do some damage, creating even more Holy Power, keeping up Expurgation of Blade of Justice, using our Divine Toll on cooldown, and our Judgment and Hammer of Wrath are basically going to be our last 2 priority filler spells. Now let's have a look at the multi-target rotation. I'm going to change over the talent. No, I'm not, because I'm in combat. I'm going to change over to the Mythic Plus build here so you can see what talents I'm changing. And voila, here we go. This is the build that I have linked below. The rotation doesn't change too much, and especially as this is a beginner guide, I'm only going to make this as simple as possible. So again, we're keeping Expurgation up. We're going to be going in with our Avenging Wrath, but then the next priority is actually changing, and it's going to be Final Reckoning, which we can place like this. Call down a blast of heavenly energy dealing damage to all targets in the target area, causing them to take 30% increased damage from your Holy Power abilities for 12 seconds. So similar to our other ability, this one is going to be increasing damage taken, but it's more of an AoE one. After that, we're going to be using Divine Storm, and this is going to be our Holy Power spender. You can see here it costs 3 Holy Power. Unleash a whirl of divine energy dealing damage to all nearby enemies. Remember that instead, this is also going to be affected by the set bonus, passively, though, I will say. So then again, using our Wake of Ashes, using our Blade of Justice to keep up Expurgation, Divine Toll, and Judgment, etc., and then again using your Divine Storm as your Holy Power spender. That's the general changes that we're going to be making with this build. Now, apart from that, there is one small thing I forgot to tell you about, and that is this super important cooldown, Blessing of Protection, or BOP, or BOP, as it can otherwise be known as. This is going to bless a party or raid member, granting immunity to physical damage and harmful effects for 10 seconds, cannot be used on a target of forbearance, and it causes forbearance. So this may sound amazing, which it is. They physically cannot be done damage to, any harmful effects. don't use this on the tank. The tank is going to get pissed off at you. So basically, when you use this on a tank, they're going to lose all their fret, etc., and the mobs could just go crazy. And often tanks will actually just completely dispel it off themselves. So do only use this on DPS and healers or yourself, being a DPS yourself, when needed. But apart from that, that is it. That is how you play Retribution Paladin in Season 3. Or Dragonflight. Again, if you need any help at all, do join my Discord where I can help you with UI, add-ons, things like that, your class. If you have any more questions about Retribution Paladin. And again, if you would like to join and help me by supporting me, and I can therefore support you more, then click that join button below to become a member, or there is a link to my Patreon if you prefer that in the description, where you can then get access to my entire UI. I'll help you set it up. And you can also, in my Discord, request that I can review your logs and give you some advice and coaching on things like that.